All right, this is a Benny the T-Rex story. Now, we haven't had a Benny story for a little while because I've been traveling and stuff, but we're going to have a story today. So, as you know, Benny had a friend, Kanga the kangaroo rat. And while Benny was off on his adventures, and of course, Benny had many adventures, Kanga would stay at home, and Kanga loved looking through the telescope. Remember, Kanga noticed the asteroid coming earlier. So Kanga would look into the sky, and Kanga would look at planets and stars, but Kanga especially loved looking at the moon. And Kanga loved watching the moon as over the course of 28 days, the moon goes from full to three quarters to half to a quarter to new when there's no light on the moon. You can just see the moon faintly in the sky. And Kanga studied the craters and the mountains, and Kanga loved the moon. Oh, one day, Kanga was watching the moon, and Kanga saw a little flash of light. And it was on the dark part of the moon, the moon, part of the moon that wasn't illuminated by the sun. And Kanga said, that's very strange. A flash of light, what could that be? And Kanga zoomed in with the telescope. And of course, Benny, in his laboratory, made amazing telescopes. So Kanga zoomed in, and he couldn't see really well, but there, in the crater, there was definitely a little flashing light. It was going flash, flash, flash. And Kanga thought, there's something there. I don't know what it is, but it's something. And so when Benny got home from his adventure, Kanga said, look, 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 come quick, look, Benny, look, Benny. And Benny looked in the telescope, and Benny could see it too. Benny could see the flashing light, and Benny said, Kanga, this is an adventure. We have to go check out the flashing light and see what it is. And I have a rocket because I like building things, and I built a rocket. So they went and they got the rocket ready, and Benny had to make a little spacesuit for Kanga. So Benny made a little spacesuit for Kanga, and then they got into the rocket, and Benny said, all right, it's time for another adventure. And he pushed the button, and the rocket took off whoosh, high into the sky. And they climbed and climbed, and soon they were in the blackness of space. And they zoomed towards the moon. Zoom, fast, fast, fast. And Kanga had taken the telescope, and as they got closer, Kanga looked in the telescope, and Kanga could see in the telescope that there were little domes, kind of like, when you make pancakes, you make pancakes in a bowl? Well, it was like an upside down bowl, like a glass bowl on the moon. And inside these little bowls, these domes, Kanga could see things moving around. And Kanga said, there's people or something there. I don't know what they are. They're very small, and I don't know what they are. And so they kept going, and they got to the moon, and Benny turned the rocket around, and it landed. And as they were landing, they realized that what it was that it was a city on the moon of little glass domes with air underneath. And you know what was inside? What was inside was kangaroo rats, more kangaroo rats, space kangaroo rats. And Kanga was jumping up and down. Kanga was so excited. Kanga said, look, it's kangaroo rats, more kangaroo rats, space kangaroo rats. And Benny's rocket, of course, was very big because it had to be big enough for a T-Rex. And the space kangaroo rats were small because kangaroo rats are small. So the rocket was huge beside all of these glass domes on the moon. But out of the domes came lots and lots of little kangaroo rats, all wearing spacesuits, space kangaroo rats in spacesuit. And they ran out to the spaceship, and they were jumping up and down in their spacesuits. And Benny and Kanga put on their spacesuits and climbed down. And the kangaroo rats said, who are you? You're a big creature with big teeth, looking at Benny. And Benny said, I'm a T-Rex. And the kangaroo rat said, and we know what you are. You are a Kangaroo rat, but you're not from the moon. Where are you from? And Kanga explained that he was from a colony of kangaroo rats in the desert. And the kangaroo rat said, well, we'd invite you in. Well, you can come in, Kanga, but you, Benny, I think you're too big, because Benny, if he tried to go into one of their little um, space domes, he wouldn't have fit, and so he would have broken. So he didn't go in. So Benny stayed outside, and Kanga went in and uh, played with the kangaroo rats. Now you may not know this, but on the moon there is less gravity, and what that means is that if you're on the moon, you're lighter and you can jump far. And so if you were on the moon and you jumped, you would jump about 6 times as high and 6 times as far, because you'd be much lighter. And so the kangaroo rats played a game that they called Jump Far. And what they would do is they would get their spacesuits on, and then they would jump as far as they could. And kangaroo rats, as you know, can already jump very far because they're very strong. But on the moon, they could jump 6 times farther. So they would jump over mountains. They would go boing, and you jump far and slow. So it would go boing through the air and then down. And Kanga played Jump Far with them, and Kanga loved it because Kanga was very strong because Kanga was always jumping. So Kanga actually won the game of Jump Far. Kanga jumped over 2 mountains. Boing! And then Benny said, let me try. And of course, Benny was very strong. And on the moon, he could jump very far. So Benny jumped, and he jumped so high, he almost went into space. He jumped like 50 miles, and it took him a long time to come back. And the kangaroo rat said, well, I think you won, but you kind of jumped really far. Anyway, so they had fun. They played Jump Far, and after a while, Kanga said to Benny, Benny, I kind of like to stay here. I'd like to stay here with the space kangaroo rats. And Benny said, okay, but I'm going to come visit you. And Kanga said, of course, I want you to come visit me. So Benny said, well, what we'll do is you can stay here, and I'll go back with my rocket, and then every week or two, I'll come back up, and then we can play Jump Far. And I'd like to bring other creatures up here so they can meet the kangaroo rats too. And maybe we can go exploring on the moon, and maybe there's probably adventures on the moon. Maybe there are caves. Maybe there are mountains we can climb. Maybe there's things left by aliens. Like maybe aliens came to the moon before, and maybe they left their ships, or they left treasure, or who knows what they left. Who knows what we'll find. I'm sure we'll have many more adventures on the moon. And so Benny said goodbye to Kanga, but he wasn't sad because he knew he was going to see Kanga again soon. And as Benny was taking off in his rocket, he looked down, and all the kangaroo rats were playing Jump Far, and they went boing, 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 and some of them jumped all the way up to the spaceship, boing. So Benny flew back home through space, and he landed, and he was really excited because he knew that he was going to have lots more adventures on the moon. Maybe even there were space kangaroo rats on the moon, but maybe there were other kinds of creatures on the moon too. Maybe they'd find other kind of creatures. Anyway, that's another Benny the T-Rex adventure for you. I love you. Good night.